We have with us in studio, again, I want to kind of emphasize that any of the opinions given by the hosts or the guests regarding the the elections or is not an endorsement by Oorah at all of either of the candidates and is the sole opinion of those aforementioned guests. I think we got that right. But we have with us here in studio Rabbi Nachman Caller, who is a veteran real estate attorney and a devoted community leader. He is a strong advocate of family values and a strong advocate of Donald Trump. Rabbi Caller has authored numerous svarim and is the Republican district leader for Borough Park in Flatbush. Rabbi Caller will be explaining tonight why the Jewish vote belongs with Donald Trump. Good Vach, Rabbi Caller, and welcome.
Good Vach, the host at Oorah. I really appreciate what Oorah is doing for the Jewish children. I came up with my wife tonight. We actually have a home here in Lakewood, so that's why I'm here. Ezra is a good friend of mine. I guess he's in New York. But either way, it's a machlekes l'shem shemayim, like says in the Perek this week. We're going to both try to figure out what's the best for our Jewish community. Okay, I've been campaigning for Donald Trump. I guess soon you'll hear a jingle which was played in Borough Park during the primary day. But I think it won't need a lot of convincing because we have a great record. In 2008 and 2012, 75% of Borough Park and Flatbush voted against Barack Obama. All we have to show is that Hillary Clinton is an extension of Barack Obama, and we will get the Jewish vote. Fortunately, I only had access to Borough Park and Flatbush. I believe now I have access to the entire United States, and I guess everybody should know that our Orthodox Jews vote resonates all over the country, so we may throw Baltimore, Florida. So, guys, campaign guys, listen. Okay. Let me give you first start the reason why I'm going to start positive. Why we have to go for Donald Trump. Donald Trump, I guess his motto is, "We will make America great again," and we will explain what it means. America great again. For the last 8 years, during Barack Obama, the country has stagnated, and the morals and the way of life degenerated, where marriage and family life has been ridiculed. This is the way of Barack Obama and his radicals. Donald Trump has a vision and plan to restore America to its former glory as the leader and not the follower of the world. We have started being the follower of the world. During the Obama years, we have begun to lead from behind. That's what everybody's saying. And we basically, the recent poll says that we lost the respect of the world. Everybody, Democrats, Republicans all say that we have lost the respect of the world. And we always worry what the dissident Europeans will say. We have become slaves to political correctness, and we cannot act decisively. Donald Trump has a history. He has a drive and ability to restore America to its glory and prosperity. When New York City and its agencies for 70 years were unable to replace the long neglected Central Park skating rink, everybody knows that story, Donald Trump stepped in, he pushed a little pressure on everybody, and says, in a year, we'll put it back. I was listening to a story of this. He says when he started, he went back, he saw they had copper pipes, and every night they stole the pipes. That's why they did it. He also said they ordered ice from Florida, and he went and he ordered from Montreal Canadiens. Anyway, he's the epicome of actually getting things done. What's wrong with America is very simple. I mean, everybody knows. I'm a lawyer. I know I can't get anything done. There's so much regulations. For any little thing, it takes forever. He's going to cut right through it, knock out the regulations, and really the United States will have a boom as soon as he comes in. Now let's go back on the negative. Hillary Clinton and Barack Obama are cut from the same cloth. I'll give you some information which is astounding. They're both from Chicago. They're both disciples of the radical professor Saul Alinsky of memory, whatever, Shem Yishem Yaakov. The radical community organizer who advocated for a revolution in the United States and published the book of 12 Rules for Radicals. They're both disciples. Barack Obama and Hillary Clinton have never created productive businesses. Barack Obama was and is a community organizer whose main purpose is to radicalize the American people. Hillary Clinton has been in government for most of her life. She has been earning a living by giving speeches at $200,000 a pop to Wall Street firms, and she accepted millions of dollars of contributions to the Clinton Foundation from foreign nationals. Hillary also wrote a book, a very interesting book. Her book is called "It Takes a Community to Raise a Child." And everybody asked the question, why community? Everybody responded, it takes a family to raise a child. Well, this is the mindset of these radicals, that they want the children taken away from the parents, raised on their own, like in a kibbutz. Where do you think Bernie Sanders came? Bernie Sanders came from a kibbutz, and he's that's where he's getting all these social and communist values in the United States. So I guess it's the same mindset for all the Democrats. My friend has coined a phrase, it's called the tale of not two cities, three cities, who really consists of three cities in the United States. First, it's the wealthy and the government operators that feed from taxpayers' money. Then there's the middle class. Unfortunately, there's no middle class anymore. It's actually the struggling class, which struggle to make ends meet and support the family. And the third class is the class of the poor. What the radicals are doing, what's happening is they're gutting the middle class. We have no middle class left, pushing us all down to the lower class. And the lower class happens, they all become dependent on government, and that's how they get their vote. So that's their modus operandi. And you also help the radical teachers union to teach and inculcate with radical ideas.
Well, those are some very interesting points, I guess, to get us started, really, in this discussion. Speaking with regarding Mr. Trump, clearly you have many different reasons and many specific areas in which you feel that he would be the better choice, and as well as the negatives that you mentioned, where Mrs. Clinton would be lacking. For a bit of the other side of the perspective, we have on the phone right now Reb Ezra Friedlander, who is the CEO of the Friedlander Group, a public policy consulting group based in Washington, D.C. and New York City. Reb Friedlander has managed many complex public relations campaigns over the years, earning himself a reputation for his diverse skills and broad range of knowledge. Tonight, Reb Friedlander will be explaining why the Jewish community should consider Hillary Clinton for president. Good tavach, and how are you?
Good tavach. Thank you so much for having me on. Good tavach, Rabbi Nachman. Look, we're in a crossroads here. The election that will decide the presidency will determine the next 4 years of the United States. Donald Trump, simply put, is not qualified to be president of the United States, let alone a candidate for president of the United States. For us Jews, we have a special responsibility to elect someone because of the following reason. I heard everything that Rabbi Nachman articulated, and I cannot respond because he brought so many different points. Some of it is relevant to a presidential race, and whether Donald Trump rebuilt Woolman Park and Central Park. If that's the criteria to elect the next president, what about how many companies that he bankrupted, the Taj Mahal? So if you're going to weigh his credentials based on repaving an ice skating rink, then you must evaluate his business career in its totality, and believe me, he would get an F, a fail. But let's not discuss that right now. Donald Trump has engaged in demagogic behavior. What do I mean by that? We Jews have a special responsibility when we voice our support for a candidate as a community to understand what does that mean? What message are we sending to the world? What message are we sending to our fellow citizens when you have a candidate that has managed to insult, to put down? Only recently, several days ago, he made a statement that Newt Gingrich, that Paul Ryan came out after they endorsed Donald Trump, saying we will have nothing to do with the statement that he made that a judge who's of Mexican heritage cannot rule on Trump University. So when we vote for a candidate, when we stand with a candidate, when Rabbi Nachman Caller stands with a candidate, Are you telling the tens of millions of Americans that are turned off by Donald Trump that we Jews embrace that candidate?
Okay.
Doesn't that invite the animosity of tens of millions of Latinos, tens of millions of African Americans? The person is a demagogue. He has no place in American political life. Most Republicans who dislike Hillary Clinton, and let me just make something very clear. I brought John Kasich into Borough Park. I'm very comfortable with some Republicans, but Donald Trump has no business being president of the United States, and us as a community, we have to understand what are the ramifications, what credentials does Donald Trump have, platitude statements that anyone could make America great again. What does that mean?
Okay.
Now you bring in so many diverse points, and yes, some of it I agree with, some of it I don't. But what does Donald Trump have to do with it? And we must take stock of ourselves. And just because a candidate is glamour and promises and is a businessman, does that mean that person could become president of the United States? We have a responsibility. We have a responsibility as a community when we stand beside a candidate. Look, we can support a candidate that we disagree with on certain policy points. But when a candidate has alienated tens of millions of Americans and we stand with that candidate, we are inviting potentially for large portions of the population to portray us, to view us and say, wait a minute, the Jewish community supports the positions of Donald Trump after he so vocally insulted our communities. How does that look for us? How do we progress as a community when intergroup relations are so important? I don't understand it.
Okay.
We cannot even bring in. I don't even want to discuss the positions of Hillary Clinton. You mentioned Barack Obama community. You made a whole chulant here. I mean, I'm not going to defend Hillary Clinton. I'm not going to defend Barack Obama. I'm saying as a community, we have a responsibility to take an election very seriously. And electing Donald Trump would be a disaster, not only for the United States of America, but for the community at large.
Okay, Rabbi Ezra, firstly, thank you for joining us. And Rabbi Ezra, I got to just tell you, first of all, thank you for your points and thank you for joining. But I got to tell you and I got to ask you a question. Your point of view, very eloquently stated, and as a neutral moderator here, I have to ask you, and I'm going to ask Rabbi Caller the same thing, are you guys missing the boat? You could stand on principle, and we could talk about demagoguery and things like that. But at the end of the day, there seems to be in the American culture, people are buying into this. And if people are buying into this, is it possible that we will just miss the current that's in this epic political season, and we will not take a stand either way because we're not being open-minded to the facts on the ground. The candidate that you're speaking about could speak down to many ethnicities or people, and his numbers seem to rise. And are we assuming that the American people aren't smart enough to realize that? And maybe there's a different playbook. And I'm not in your field, and obviously this is your profession. I'm merely asking as a novice or an outsider, or somebody looking in and being a couch quarterback. Is our political class, whether it's Republican or Democrat, the Jewish political activists, so to speak, are we missing what's going on?
I'll defer to Rabbi Nachman to respond first, in light of my admiration.
Okay, that's very political. Go ahead.
Thanks, Ezra. We've been together a long time. So let me give you my perspective on the Jewish vote. We have to begin to vote principles. We've been voting for Democrats all the time because the Democrats are in power and things like that. I mean, Ezra knows, I think this is a dispute. We have to vote against the Democrats because Democrats are all against our principles. We don't have to foresee. That's because Baruch Hu will already decide what's going to be. But Rabbi Victor Miller said, Rabbi Belsky, blessed memory, said, you cannot vote for people that espouse degradation of morality. We have to stand up for that. That's really, I was a Democrat 5 years ago, 10 years ago. We were all Democrats. It's not we left the Democrats left us. We have to, if Ezra, you can get rid of the progressives in the Democratic Party, we'd all come back to the Democratic Party. So at this point in time.
Let me respond to that, Reb Nachman. If that's going to be your criteria, and obviously I will never contradict what Rabbi Victor Miller's position was, but how could you support Donald Trump when his personal life and in his political life, he supported everyone who you cannot even fathom supporting?
Okay, well, that's
in terms of, are you aware how Donald Trump has referred to women? Are you aware how Donald Trump has engaged in behavior that is not what you're espousing? So on that front alone, Donald Trump should be disqualified from receiving your support. Now, in terms of the moderator's question, look, as Jews, we have a special responsibility. That's what I would think Rabbi Caller would agree with me on that, is to evaluate a candidate not just based on who the general population, the wind of the day, and which direction is the wind blowing, and that's who we should support. Because no, we have a higher authority that we claim to aspire to. Donald Trump is a phenomenon, and I agree that there's a large portion of the population that is angry, and he's tapped into that anger. But along with that anger, he has managed to bring to the surface the anti-Semites, and you see that. You see that across the board, and I'm not saying you have that in Bernie Sanders' camp as well. But Donald Trump's candidacy has brought to the surface tens of thousands of angry individuals who have hatred and who have hatred for the Jewish community as well. And you see that on Twitter. You see that on social media. You see that if there's a Jewish reporter that questions Donald Trump's credentials, they espouse anti-Semitism, and he has not condemned it. He knows what he's doing, and perhaps he's a lot smarter than a lot of of his fellow candidates, because he has managed to blow everyone away, and he obviously is the Republican nominee. But what's most troubling is that in his own party, the hierarchy doesn't want to see him elected. Paul Ryan gave him a very lukewarm endorsement, and only today has disassociated himself with the statement of his own nominee. So if that's the way the Republican Party is treating him, what message does that send to the world? Where should we stand as a community? If you don't want to support Hillary Clinton, fine. I have no problem with that. But don't support Donald Trump.
Okay, Rabbi Ezra, I want you to hear something, and then I want to hear your comment after I play this. This little jingle, and then we'll pick up Ezra after this jingle. Go ahead.
Nitzt aus dem historischen Gelegenheit, sie hoben nach heilig in Weilen a Präsidentkandidat. Ob sind die a registered Republican, geht ausstimmen für Donald Trump. Donald Trump ist der beste Kandidat für uns chareidische Jiden. Trump versteht in sie gebrochen, in Trump wird...
Rabbi Ezra, Rabbi Ezra care to comment?
Look, it's a jingle. It's a nice jingle. It's a fine tune. But look, what has that have to got?
Nothing. I'm just being cute. But I'd like to know if you think there's a Democratic Clinton jingle coming out soon as a response to Rabbi Nachman Caller.
Look, I am not part of the Clinton campaign. You would have to ask them the question. Look, the bottom line is, Donald Trump is a divisive figure. The Jewish community should not stand in solidarity with a divisive figure. It's not good for the community. We live in a very diverse country. It's not just Borough Park and Lakewood. We have to be aware of our surroundings. We need the cooperation, we need the goodwill of all communities. And you can support a Republican. I have many close contacts, and I work very closely with members of the Republican caucus, both in the House and in the Senate, and I have respect for many Republican positions. I'm working on a project now with Senator Orrin Hatch and others. So I'm obviously a registered Democrat, but look, I'm not speaking now as a partisan Democrat. I'm speaking as an American. I'm speaking as an American Jew. Donald Trump does not bring to our country pride. We are a laughingstock.
Okay,
All over
some
the world. Yes,
very,
Rav Nachman-
very strong words from Rabbi Friedlander. We're going to go for a quick commercial break. Okay, welcome back here. Reminding you to call in at 1-877-7-AUCTION. That was some five-ish with a little comedy to, I guess, break the tension. 1-877-7-AUCTION. Let's talk a little bit. We have Rabbi Nachman Caller and Ezra Friedlander on the line, and Rabbi Nachman Caller here in studio. Obviously, when it comes to the elections within the Jewish community, one of the first things that everybody wants to talk about is Israel and how the candidate will affect Israel. So I'll start with Reb Nachman. How do you explain or understand Donald Trump's comment that he will be neutral between Israel and the Palestinians? Something that bothers, I think, a lot of people within the Jewish community.
Let me just make a little comment. Ivis, who was that? Predicted Achashverosh to win. And we know the MW Purim party. We have the other parts to the party. We have we have the Queen Esther already in the house. Of course, we have Ivanka Trump. She's a Jew, and she's sitting in the kingdom, so she'll be there. By the way, everybody should know what her Hebrew name is. Her Hebrew name is Yael. That Yael is a big figure in Jewish history. She defeated the king of Sisera, and the Nevi'im, Devorah said, "Tvarich v'noshem Yael Eshes Kevekayne Tvarich v'noshem," that she's bigger than the Mars. So hopefully we get the first part. Because Rach is doing something which is extraordinary. I mean, just go with the facts. Never in the life. Okay, let's get back to Israel with the explanation what neutral means. There's no question in the world that Donald Trump and his family loves Israel. They said that in 2014. In 2004, he said, that he was Grand Marshal, so he loves them. He works with even his I guess, Jason Greenblatt is very close to him. He said that he's going to be his Israeli thing. What he means neutral is, I mean, he's a deal maker. He's dreaming, and I should help him. He should do it. He's going to make peace in the Middle East. The first thing you got to say is, I'm neutral. Neutral means he's fair. That's all he means, he's fair. There's no way in the world he will let Israel down. He'll give them the weapons they need to support him and any farm. He will not pressure, not like Obama would just pressure, or Hillary on the other thing. She was a tool of Obama. She kept on pressuring Netanyahu. So he will not do that. So we don't have to worry. And what he will do for Israel is the best thing in the world. I mean, what does Israel need? Israel doesn't need any arms from the United States. They can send arms to the United States. That's no problem. They need the pressure off. They need ISIS away. As soon as he takes over, I think we will see the end of ISIS.
Well, Reb Ezra, what are your thoughts on that, both on Donald Trump's commitment to the state of Israel as well as Hillary Clinton's, which a lot of people are saying she's an extension of the Obama administration that has clearly moved away, and the relations between Israel and the United States have deteriorated under Obama. People view Hillary as an extension of that. What are your thoughts, both of Mr. Trump and Hillary's positions as it would be regard to Israel?
Well, first, let me respond to what Rav Nachman just stated. Israel does require the defense cooperation with the United States. So that statement is totally false. As a matter of fact, Israel is now negotiating with the United States on another memorandum of understanding, the 10-year agreement. The United States Senate just included $600 million in the defense appropriations bill. Hopefully, God willing, that will be passed by the full Senate. So Israel very much depends on the United States. That's just a fact. Now, in terms of Donald Trump's commitment to the security of the state of Israel, he has no track record. I mean, it's simply childish to even allude to marching at the Grand Marshal in a parade. I mean, that's ridiculous. Donald Trump doesn't have a track record, doesn't have a history of working with the pro-Israel community, so there's nothing to judge him. That statement that he made is just indicative that he doesn't understand U.S. foreign policy. He's clueless. It's rather insulting that someone who is a serious candidate and is now the Republican nominee never took the time to actually read up. Now, in terms of his Israel advisor, I did meet Mr. Greenblatt. He comes across as a very good, sincere person. But again, I don't know. He's a real estate lawyer. He advises him on real estate transactions. What qualifications does he have? I don't know. I mean, he may have, he may not have, but he works for the man. So obviously, he's a. Again, it's really we have no idea how Donald Trump will be on U.S.-Israel relations. Now, every president, every candidate running for office tells you that they will be pro-Israel and the security of the state of Israel is in the U.S. national interest. Some have better relations. Some don't have such good relations. Obviously, President Obama does have a history with Netanyahu. They don't get along. They don't see eye to eye. We're not getting into that whole discussion. Whether Hillary Clinton will have a good relationship with the state of Israel, we don't know. I personally feel that she knows the history. She was let me put it to you this way. There hasn't been a candidate for the presidency that has the unique experience set of qualifications. That's what I call it. Someone who has had a front row seat, 8 years as First Lady, 8 years as the U.S. Senator, and 4 years as Secretary of State. Now, we all know that the Clinton and the Obama administration made mistakes. Every administration makes mistakes. They all walk in with blazing guns. Then they realize the sobering facts that are on the table. Should Hillary Clinton be able to learn from the mistakes of the administrations that she was privy to, she could actually end up being a pretty good president. So I believe that she understands what the national security needs are of the United States.
Right. Now you don't sound so. Are you supporting Hillary because you believe that Hillary will be a good president, or are you more concerned about Donald Trump being president, and therefore you feel that Hillary is a better option?
Hillary is a better option. Look, it's very clear that Hillary has many flaws. Look, that the facts are what they are. But there is no question that if I have a choice between Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump, I will vote for Hillary Clinton. There's no choice. Look, I brought John Kasich into Borough Park. I welcomed him. I took him around. I would have preferred that he would be our next president. Right. I just feel that we don't understand the significance of the potential damage to the United States that a Trump presidency would bring. He is a wild card.
Rev Caller, do you have any? I mean, there are a lot of, I guess, concerns people have about Donald Trump. You seem to be very comfortable with it. Do you have any reservations? I think Rabbi Friedlander is saying he's looking at the choice he has. He's more concerned about Donald Trump brings to the table, and therefore he feels that Hillary's the better option. Are you? I guess the same question to you. Do you have any reservations, any concerns about what Donald Trump would be like as president?
Well, let's start. I would say never Hillary with that phrase, but let's go back. I do feel Donald Trump came from no place. He's not a politician, and he doesn't know how to deal with what he's saying is off the cuff. I agree with it. He's saying silly things.
You think he'll be like that as president?
No, not as president. I think that what's happening is Paul Ryan criticized him. He will get criticism from his own party, and hopefully he'll get a campaign that's sophisticated. He doesn't have one now. He doesn't react to anti-Semitism calls. I hope that within the next month or two, you'll see a new Donald Trump that even Ezra will be able to work for.
I don't know. What does it mean, a new Donald Trump? Do you know what it means that you have a candidate for president of the United States that refused and that acted dumb? He said, I have a faulty earpiece, Ku Klux Klan, KKK. I have no idea what you're talking about. Where is the outrage? Where is the outrage? His supporters have managed to engage in behavior that is reminiscent of the worst kind of intimidation that has no place in the United States of America. And
Okay.
we've seen this time and time again, and we understand why Donald Trump is egging them on, because that's the source of his support. So I'm not going to call Donald Trump an anti-Semite. No, I won't do that, because I'm sure he's not an anti-Semite. But he understands very, very clearly what he's doing. He's a very shrewd person. He tapped into a reservoir of anger and animosity, and he's bringing that to the surface to further his candidacy, and he did that very effectively. Look, he's now the Republican nominee.
Rabbi Ezra, do you think when he says these extremist statements that he actually means what he says, or he's just doing showmanship and things of that nature?
I think partially he agrees and partially he doesn't. There's some, look, it's a showmanship to a point, but he is not someone who clearly understands the role of the United States. I mean, he talks about the leader of the free world and how the world laughs at us. He doesn't understand NATO. He has no clue about how to conduct U.S. foreign policy. I mean, you see the reaction to of world leaders. They're flabbergasted. They cannot understand how the Republican Party has as its nominee someone who's a TV talk show. I mean, and a semi-successful real estate developer. Yes, he's a genius at branding and marketing, so maybe he should become the chief branding officer of the United States. But for him to be commander-in-chief, it's scary.
Okay, I want to give
Downright.
Rabbi Ezra, I want to give Rabbi Caller some time to respond. Rabbi Caller, take it away for some final thoughts. You got the ear to hundreds of thousands of people. Take it away.
Okay, I have no reservations of supporting Donald Trump. I think we go back to the Reagan-Carter years. I guess when Reagan was running, everybody thought he was an actor. He had nothing to give. And when he came to the presidential debate, he actually defeated Carter. It's the same thing with Donald. It doesn't make a difference. You're executive. You don't have to know everything. You have to have the gut feeling what the United States is all about. We're the leader of the world. We have to protect freedom. We have to fight the Muslims. Of course, as long as he does that, that's all we need. Everything will fall into place.
Thank you very much, Rabbi Caller.
Let me just make a closing statement. Ronald Reagan was governor of the largest state before he was elected president. So I don't think you could compare Donald Trump to a Ronald Reagan. Look, it's an election year. Everyone is very passionate about their candidate. I would urge everyone to, if you're considering voting for Donald Trump, think very, very carefully what the ramifications would be. If you're uncomfortable voting for Hillary Clinton, fine. Stay home or write in a third-party candidate. That's your right as a citizen. But voting for Donald Trump is not an option. Thank you, and good luck. And everyone, please support Oorah.
Thank you very much, Rabbi Friedlander. Thank you very much, Rabbi Caller, for some very, very interesting points. Hopefully, this kind of conversation will continue ongoing, as this is a very crucial and critical election for the Jewish community. Of course, keeping in mind that ultimately, Leiv Malachim V'Sorim B'Yad Hashem. Also want to remind everyone that this is not an endorsement by Oorah or any of the hosts of this program of either presidential candidate.